You know, when most football fans think about the 1974 World Cup final, they remember one thing: Johan Cruyff's incredible total football finally meeting its match. But who was on the other side of that pitch? Who was the force that managed to bring all that beautiful chaos to a grinding halt? Well, let's get into it.
See, on one side you had Johan Cruyff, the artist, the symbol of a free-flowing, revolutionary new style. And on the other, you had Franz Beckenbauer, the Kaiser, a guy who commanded the field with the calm, cool authority of a general. In a decade defined by total football, Beckenbauer was the ultimate counterforce.
But to really get a handle on the Kaiser, you've got to understand where he came from. You have to go all the way back to post-war Germany, a country literally rebuilding itself and its identity from the ground up.
Like so many legends, Franz's genius was basically born on the streets of Munich. But he absolutely burst onto the world stage at the 1966 World Cup in England. Just picture this. You're only 20 years old, and you're leading your country all the way to a wild final at Wembley. And even though they lost to England, the whole world knew a totally new kind of player had just arrived.
And this, right here, is where his revolution really kicks off. Because Franz Beckenbauer didn't just play the game exceptionally well, he fundamentally changed the job description for an entire position on the football pitch.
So, to really appreciate Beckenbauer's genius, you have to remember how basic a defender's job used to be. I mean, before the Kaiser, a defender was basically a bouncer at a nightclub. Your only job was to stop the fun. That's it. See an attack coming? Shut it down.
Beckenbauer's answer to this was to invent, or at least perfect, the role of the libero. Now yeah, it's a sweeper, but an attacking one. This was his tactical masterpiece. He created a player who could not only defend, but who could actually start the entire team's attack from the deepest spot on the field.
Okay, so how did it actually work? Well, the libero hangs back, just behind the main defensive line, reading everything. Once they win the ball back, they don't just hoof it up the field. No, they drive forward, becoming a surprise extra attacker in the midfield. It was the perfectly German answer to total football. You get all that fluidity, but with this undeniable sense of order and, of course, ruthless efficiency.
And from that deep position, he had this incredible panoramic view of the game. It was like he wasn't just another musician in the orchestra. He was the conductor, dictating the tempo and making sure every single section was in perfect harmony, all from the back.
So with all this tactical innovation and this epic rivalry brewing, you just knew it was all going to come to a head in what would become one of the most famous matches in football history.
And look, I can't overstate the stakes here. If you look at the ELO rating system, which is a way to measure the strength of teams, the 1974 World Cup was one of the strongest tournaments ever. I mean, this final was pitting two of the greatest teams of all time against each other, both at the absolute peak of their powers.
And just look at this matchup. On one side, you've got the German machine, Beckenbauer as captain, the deadly goal scorer Gerd Müller, the legendary goalkeeper Sepp Maier. And on the other, you've got Cruyff and his Dutch Socialist Brigade, a team that was all about chaos and creativity. What a clash.
So the final starts in the most insane way possible. The Netherlands score a penalty before a single German player has even touched the ball. It was total chaos right from the whistle. But the Kaiser? He didn't even flinch. He just calmly organized his troops, imposed his will on the game, and led them to a 2-1 victory, lifting that trophy on home soil. Unbelievable. But here's the thing about Beckenbauer. His influence wasn't just stuck on the pitch, or even in Europe for that matter. He was a true global superstar who helped build a footballing empire far, far beyond Munich. This is a fantastic little story that shows you just how much financial power he had. When Johan Cruyff's agent was trying to negotiate a new contract, he didn't point to other star forwards. He pointed to the salaries of defender Franz Beckenbauer and winger George Best and told the board, "My guy deserves that kind of money." Think about that. A defender was setting the salary benchmark for the entire sport.
He was one of the very first athletes to really get the power of branding and image rights. And then, after he'd conquered Europe, what did he do? He joined Pelé at the New York Cosmos. And his arrival in America wasn't just a headline, it completely elevated the sport over there, helping build the foundation for the game we see in the US today.
So when you put it all together, the player, the innovator, the businessman, what is the Kaiser's ultimate lasting legacy on the game?
Well, he wasn't just a player reacting to what was happening. He was an architect who built empires. He constructed a whole new way of defending. He built that Red Empire at Bayern Munich, and he even helped draw up the architectural plans for modern soccer in the United States.
But when you boil it all down, Beckenbauer's greatest revolution was proving that things like beauty, vision, and creativity didn't just belong to the flashy number 10s and the goal scorers. He showed the entire world that a defender could be an artist. He made defending an art form.
Which, of course, leaves us with one last big question to think about. Was Beckenbauer's creation, the attacking sweeper, the single greatest tactical invention in the history of football? Or was it maybe just a clever way for defenders to finally get some of the glory for themselves? It's a question that really shows just how deeply this one man changed the game forever.